All right, you guys, the fall time change is less than a week away. I feel like I should be playing some scary Halloween haunted house music or something. I start getting questions about this time change in early October. Usually over a month in advance, parents start to dread the fall time change. And every year I hear nightmare stories for months after the change about babies or young children who suddenly start to have an insanely early hour wake up once the clocks drop back and they never got back on track. So, today I want to help you confidently and easily navigate this time change. My goal is for you to think of this as a non event, and it's definitely possible. Hi, I'm Allison Egidi, a pediatric sleep and wellness coach and a mom of two. I love to help parents find solutions. This is How Long Till Bedtime. The dreaded fall time change. It's happening on November 7th. That is when our clocks will fall back here in the United States. Children who typically wake up at 6:30 a.m. are going to wake up that Sunday morning at 5:30 a.m. I want to start by admitting that this is definitely the time change that is more challenging. The spring one, while it can throw some kids for a loop, is much easier because the clock is springing forward. This time we're dropping back. But I don't want anyone to overanalyze it. I really want both time changes to be a non event for your child. So, a lot of experts and people out there are going to recommend that you take this really gradual approach to the time change, that you're going to slowly start shifting your child's schedule over a 7 to 14 day period before the actual time change. So they'll tell you to shift everything related to their bedtime and their naps by 10 to 15 minutes each day. I really don't recommend taking this approach because it's important to keep in mind that there are two big drivers to our children's circadian rhythm. One is natural light, and the other is the rhythm of their day. So that would be when they eat the meals, when they go to daycare or to school, when they get home, etc. If you start slightly tinkering with their sleep schedule before the time change has happened and nothing else is shifting, so their meal times aren't shifting, the time that you leave the house at the beginning of the day and get home at the end of the day isn't shifting, you're actually more likely to throw them off their sleep rhythm because the body is like, what is happening? Why are you slowly shifting my schedule? And you're going to throw their circadian rhythm off. And I actually find this to be particularly true if you have a more sensitive child because they're going to get thrown off their rhythm more easily. So before the time change even arrives, you may already find that you're in a bit of a mess. So what should you do? Nothing. I want you to do nothing in advance. And then I want you to make a little bit of small adjustments on Sunday, November 7th, the day the time change happens. We're going to make some small tweaks, and that is it. I want this whole thing to be behind you in 24 hours. So, how are we going to do that? On Saturday night, November 6th, you're going to put your little one and yourself to bed at a normal time. Putting yourself to bed at a normal time is a really important piece of this, you guys, because I know back in the day, pre-kids, we all thought this time change was great. You got extra time of sleep, but those days are long gone. So get yourself to sleep so that you will wake up feeling rested the next day. So everyone goes to bed at their typical time Saturday night. Do not change the clocks. Don't do anything. On Sunday morning, everyone's going to wake up at their normal wake time. So if your child typically wakes at 6:30 a.m., that's when they're going to wake up. But as we all know, the reality is that it's actually 5:30 a.m. But this is not a problem because no one should be tired yet because you all went to bed on time and you got the right amount of sleep. So you're going to get up Sunday morning and you're going to change your clocks to the new time. And then as you approach Sunday naps, if you have a child who's still napping, the only change that I want you to make to your child's schedule is to have all the naps start 30 minutes earlier than normal. So I'm going to give an example of a child who's on a one nap schedule. Let's say your child typically naps at noon. That's when you would put them down. On Sunday, you're going to put them down at 11:30 a.m. That's the new 11:30. So the old 12:30. So you'll put them down at 11:30 a.m. And then you're going to approach bedtime. So that was for a one nap schedule. If they are on a 2 or a 3 nap schedule, you'll make that same adjustment to all 3 naps. And then as you approach bedtime, you're going to do the exact same thing. So if your child's normal bedtime is 7 p.m., you're going to put them down at 6:30 p.m. Again, that's the new 6:30 p.m., the old 7:30 p.m. That's what you're going to do on Sunday night. So the result of that is that on Sunday, you have shifted your child halfway to the new time. Now, let's briefly touch on what to do if you have a child who has a toddler clock or a sleep light. First of all, yay for toddler clocks and sleep lights. I'm a big believer that every child over the age of 2 should have one of these. I'm going to talk about this more in an upcoming episode. But as it relates to kids who currently have them, respect them, they work, etc., I want you to make sure that the clock is set to the new time once you get up on Sunday morning. So just like with your clocks, don't change anything on Saturday. And then on Sunday, shift the clock to the new time. Then I want you to adjust the clock nap timing on Sunday to provide that typical nap length with the starting time that's 30 minutes earlier than usual. So kids on toddler clocks should not be taking more than one nap. So you're just going to have to tinker with it a little bit on Sunday to align it with the adjusted nap time. And then when you put your child to bed on Sunday night, set the wake time for their normal wake time. They may wake a bit earlier, but the expectation would be that they follow the rule of the light and it's at their normal time. And then on Monday, you'll shift the timing of the nap to the normal time. So that will be true for everyone else. So let's talk about Monday morning. It's going to be hit or miss with what time your child wakes up. So some kids are just going to adjust very quickly and they're going to wake up at their typical time, but others are definitely going to wake earlier than they typically would because they're kind of waking at their old wake time or closer to their old wake time, which is early on the new time. But no matter what time they actually wake up on Monday morning, I want you to go back to your normal nap schedule. So using the same example that I was just talking through, the one nap schedule, you would then put your child down for their nap at the typical 12 p.m. nap time on Monday. And the bedtime on Monday evening would be the typical 7 p.m. bedtime. However, if your child doesn't nap well or is getting less than their typical amount of night sleep, so if Sunday night was a less than stellar night of sleep because they woke up extra early, for example, or they didn't take a great nap on Monday, then I want you to go for an extra early bedtime. Putting your baby or young child to bed 30 minutes earlier than usual can really help them make up for some of their missed sleep, particularly during this change when their body will be even less inclined to sleep in than it already typically is. So that's it, you guys. That's all I want you to do. I want you to do nothing until you wake up on November 7th. Then you're going to make some small tweaks on Sunday, and then you're going to go back to your child's typical schedule come Monday morning. Now, 2 things I want to address. I know that I'm going to have listeners who say the gradual approach has worked for them in the past. I think that's great. That type of success falls into the category of if it ain't broke, don't fix it. So if it's worked for you historically and you want to do it again, go for it. But if the gradual changing leading up to the time change hasn't worked well in the past, or this is the first time that you're trying to navigate the time change with a child that's now on a schedule, I encourage you to try this less is more approach. The other question that I'm anticipating is around newborns. So, what are you supposed to do if you have a child under 4 months who really isn't on a truly consistent schedule? Don't worry about it. Don't change too much. The only thing I want you to focus on is trying to shift their bedtime. If they have a consistent bedtime window, try to shift that over a 2-day period. So shift it halfway, by 30 minutes on Sunday, and then come Monday, try to shift it the additional 30 minutes. So if you shift their bedtime window, then the rest of it is going to naturally flow. It might take a little time, but it shouldn't be a big deal. And if your child's already not on a schedule, they're just going to gradually adjust. And the best way to do that is to try to work on shifting the bedtime window and don't stress about all the rest of it. All right. So if you're listening to this before November 7th, 2021, and you have questions, or November 7th arrives and you quickly hit a bump in the road as you navigate this time change, you are welcome to join me on Facebook or Instagram at 5 p.m. Eastern on Sunday, November 7th. I'm going to be answering questions live. I'll link to the Sleep and Wellness Coach Facebook page and the Sleep and Wellness Coach Instagram page in the show notes, and I will be going live at 5 p.m. Eastern on November 7th to answer your questions and help you with any troubleshooting. Thank you for joining me for this episode of How Long Till Bedtime. I hope that you have a really smooth transition through the time change and you really get to the end of that week and think, it was a non-event. It wasn't that big of a deal. And I hope you'll come back and join me here again. Bye for now.